So anyway, I actually have an interview here. We're going to talk with a person who's been very involved with this in Final Fantasy, and we're going to get their perspective on things. Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing?
Hi, all good.
Well, anyway, I'm sure you've seen the whole stuff with Pyromancer and everything like that. You want to introduce yourself and just kind of tell everybody where you're coming from, what you're into, and what you do?
Okay, so people know me as Slan. I've been developing plugins since ever I got to Final Fantasy. I'm a WoW Wendy.
Okay.
You wanna call me that. So yeah, I've been working on plugins. I prefer not to mention which plugins they are, just because there's a bigger team, and I'm coming here from my own opinion and volition, so I don't wanna ruin anyone's life.
I get that. I totally do. I mean, it's definitely a thing. How long have you been doing it?
Being honest with you, probably like almost a year now, but in terms of actual active development, like 4 months.
Okay.
It's around the time it took us.
And so whenever you first started doing it, did you ever expect to hear a crackdown or see a crackdown like this, like what we're seeing now?
I mean, honestly, yeah, because by the time I already started developing, like, people were already gatekeeping plugins and shit, but ever since the WoW people got around, just grew, obviously.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's gotten a lot more attention to it. I feel like now, recently, with the Dragon Song War Ultimate Raid, you just see so many people now watching Final Fantasy for that, is that they just had to comment on it, they had to do something about it. So what do you think about, like, them finally cracking down on it? Like, do you consider this a positive thing? Like, how do you feel about it?
It's kind of mixed, because obviously the best alternative is to not have an illegal market, right? So
yeah.
The best really option is for Square Enix to take inspiration, like they already said, and we thank them a lot for that. Take inspiration from the plugins that are created and implement them in game. Like, no one's here to try to ruin the fun for anyone. We find flaws that we think we can fix, and we make a tool to fix it.
So you think in a way like the add-ons have a symbiotic relationship with the game, and basically, and this is what's happened, like you said, you're a WoW Andy, you know this, right? Is that, like in Classic WoW, we didn't even have cast bars, you could see. There were add-ons for it, and then in Burning Crusade, they added cast bars. So you think in a way like the add-ons actually help the developers, it gives the developers insight into what the players want to see improved in the UI?
I honestly think so. Like, there's plugins with almost 1 million downloads. That's a clear indication that that plugin brings a lot of good quality of life to people. And that plugin simply does very simple tweaks, like showing your guild in your inventory instead of a UI element. Like, and there's so many things that plugins just give you quality of life, but they're still seen as bad. That's the part that really contradicts itself.
So,
like,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, you can continue. It's fine.
Okay. So, like, I'm sure you've seen some of the videos of people's takes, streamers and stuff. Like, for example, the target bar showing the duration of the buff, but not the party frames. Like, you can say whatever you want about plugins, but can you really call that good? Like, is that good? Could it be improved? I'm pretty sure everyone can say that yes.
You're talking about the base UI. Could the base UI be improved? Yeah. Okay, yeah, I definitely think so. I think that's the way a lot of people view it. And do you think that it's a lot of WoW players that have come over to Final Fantasy XIV and there's much more of a culture of add-ons, or do you think this is just something that's been going on in Final Fantasy and it's just kind of been brought to a head now that you see a lot of high-end players with a lot of eyes on them, now that you see so many people watching the World First Race?
Well, it honestly always happened even before the WoW Exodus. People have been using plugins, ACT, we can name it, but obviously the WoW influx did have a major... it just came to make stuff a little bit more difficult, mainly for the people who moderate.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you think there's a difference between add-ons like ACT, and I think CatBot is one of the ones that calls out abilities that happen, and the difference between add-ons like that and add-ons like G-Shade and things that just show, like, for example, like a debuff timer on a party frame? Do you think there's a line where add-ons become unacceptable and a place where they are acceptable?
Yeah, of course. Like, we ourselves, we have guidelines for developing plugins. We obviously don't want to ruin the fun for anyone. We just want to give quality of life and vanity. We don't want to give anyone a clear advantage on clearing content. And the plugins that are created and are shown to the people who moderate, if they don't follow those guidelines, they're just banned and they're not going to be in the plugin list.
So it's just that simple. Okay.
Yeah, and like whatever we're doing, Square Enix can do it. It's simple moderation. You can understand that moving out of bounds, moving objects out of bounds, that's clearly cheating. So that's not going to be a plugin that you're going to be able to install. We simply do not accept that, right?
Would you say that, like, add-ons that tell you what abilities are happening in a boss fight? So, like, for example, if you're playing a boss fight and it just says, you know, Terra Flare, Mega Flare, I don't know, Dive Bomb, and it says the mechanic immediately, like, would you consider that over the line or not?
That's kind of hard to answer because obviously we had all these contradictions. Yeah. I've never been a fan of like big wigs and shit like that. On WoW, it's kind of necessary. Here, I don't really see the need. I've came here, I've never used CatBot. I've never really had the need to use it. Now, I'm not that far into progress. I know the fight gets pretty hard, and some stuff is just insanely hard, even with a 9th man to call out. So it's kind of like the way WoW went. That stuff became hard, too hard for people to figure out by themselves, that tools started to appear. I feel like it's kind of the same way. I think they're pushing the limits of people. They're reaching limits that it's just not doable within certain time frames, and people are just finding solutions for it. Like, for example, the 9th man, I know that's something really recent in Final Fantasy. It came from WoW. And it's literally just we as 8 men, we can't. It's too much, and I think Square Enix should also keep that in mind, that there's an extent that you can push players for 2 weeks playing 16 hours a day. That like it's already too much. By removing the tools that help you analyze, it's just gonna make it even worse. Like I don't think anyone will enjoy doing an ultimate for 2 months of 16 hours a day.
No, I think
I don't think anyone will enjoy that.
That's definitely true. What would you say to people that would say that you know, the Final Fantasy developers themselves have cleared the fights, the ultimates, and thus players should be able to do the same thing? Well, without the add-ons.
I'm not really sure who exactly they're hearing that from. I'm pretty sure they do clear them. I don't believe they clear the same way as players do. They're developers after all. They can literally, if they want to QA test a fight, they checkpoint at the mechanic, they test it 100 times, they make automations to test fights. That's just how it works. Like, the fact that you can clear a fight, obviously you made it. So you're going to have way more knowledge than anyone else on the fight.
So you think that they clear it, but they do it in a way that's not similar to the way players do, with extra tools or ways to pause or move forward in the fight?
I would say so. Like, I'm not saying that they don't clear it like a normal player, but they definitely have to not clear it as a normal player to test it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I guess that, of course, that would make sense. The other thing I'm kind of wondering about is, like, you see, obviously, these bans going out, these suspensions. Do you think that Square Enix is handling it the right way?
No, not at all. Like, they're going after people really, they simply shouldn't get banned this easily. Like, I do agree that you're crossing the line, you're crossing the TOS. That means you need to be punished for it, right?
Yeah.
But them making an announcement and hours later they just ban Bagel from the game. They ban him from Twitch, and now, like,
without like a warning or anything like that, just, you know, ban him and that's it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because of the, I mean, obviously, you know, we saw the stuff that's happening now with Pyro, people reporting him like crazy. Do you think this is like witch hunting or what?
Yeah, I do think it's witch hunting.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can just go to Twitter, you look at who's typing what, like, oh, that guy was using ACT, you should die and get banned.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, what the fuck? You go see his profile, oh, it's a modded cat boy that is addicted to housing, and he uses a plugin that we do not allow. Like, it moves objects out of bounds. We do not want to have anything to do with those kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They use it to make pretty houses, and they use G-Shade. So, which side exactly are you on? Like, you're using tools that not even us allow, because they're simply just against our even TOS. And you're telling someone that uses ACT to get banned and die. Like, does not make sense to me.
It's certainly a lot, and I think there's a lot of people that don't like the add-ons, that they feel like now they are enabled to like really do what they want to do, right? They're able to report people and take action against these people that are doing something that they disagree with.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I feel like this is that you're right, and like, yeah, of course you have something where, because you're right. So you're saying there are add-ons that allow people to do things that the base game doesn't even let you do, like put things in out of bounds, but somehow this is okay in the minds of people, but not ACT, and that there's somehow, I mean, there's kind of a hypocrisy there, where you're doing something that's literally not allowed versus something that just increases awareness, and one of them's okay and one of them's not. I think that this is kind of going to happen more and more until these features are built into the game.
Yeah, like, I personally feel like it's easy, well, easier than what people been talking about to draw the line.
Yeah.
There's stuff that obviously should not be allowed, but I don't see how giving people with disabilities and giving more customization the chance, I don't see how that should be against the rules. So, if we manage to do something for literally passion, like, plugin developers are nothing but passionate players. Like, this is the first game even that I've heard that modders and whatever are the ones that the villains, pretty much. Like, this is the only game. You look at Terraria or Minecraft, for example, and they keep the game alive, pretty much. Whoever does mods, they're spending literally thousands of hours. No one does that besides for money, and we don't get paid.
So you
and
don't
we
make
even get seen as a bad guy. So we literally do it for passion, and yeah.
So you're like Batman. You do it, and people still hate you. You do what's best for them.
I mean, I'm not saying that I'm doing the best for them. Yeah, everyone has their opinion, but like saying, for example, that vision impairment is not an issue for me, so I'm gonna vote against it. That just doesn't seem fair to me. Like, if someone has an issue with their vision and they need numbers bigger, I don't think the humane decision is to tell them, then don't play the game. Play something else with bigger names.
Where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
Like, for example, so like, let's say you have somebody who is hearing impaired, right? And there are certain tells in a game. I don't know if there's that many in Final Fantasy, but you could do visual impairment as well. And would you think that it would be okay to have like text on the screen to tell somebody what mechanic is occurring at a certain time, because they might not be able to visually discern or audibly discern what's occurring?
Well, this obviously depends, and I think it's more of a work for the Square Enix developers. Me personally, and we as plugin developers, we don't really do anything related to combat. We do UI, we do vanity. So in terms of combat, I'm personally against it. I don't like big wigs. I don't think there's a need for it in Final Fantasy. Although for accessibility reasons, that's something that devs have to figure out by themselves. They will know more than better than us how to solve an issue.
That's a good answer. I like that. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. And I would say, like, just in general, like, what if you're trying to get a message out there to like an audience and you're trying to get like your opinion out there, where are you really coming from? Just take this whole situation and give us your general opinion on it and really how you feel about it.
Okay, so I'll try to even explain how I even started doing it.
Okay.
It was actually because I was leveling Warrior, and Warrior has an MP bar.
Yeah, it doesn't need that.
But Warrior doesn't use MP, right?
No.
So how do I remove it? Oh, I don't. Oh, it's also connected to my HP bar. Oh, this doesn't really seem good. Like, so if I want to even increase my HP bar, I need to also increase my MP bar that I don't even use. And then I started looking around, and like I found out I found out about plugins, and I started seeing what people were making, and I thought, man, I'll try to do something for myself. I'll fix my own problem. Like, I'm not a big person. I'm just a guy that plays games. I'm not gonna write a letter to Yoshi P and say I don't think Warrior should have an MP bar on their UI. He's not gonna care. But if I can make the solution for myself and I can maybe help others, then great.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think, like, last thing I'd want to ask you is if you could say one thing to Square Enix, communicate one thing with them, what would you tell them?
I kind of wish they would not throw so much shade at us. I think they have a really negative vision of the developers. But modding games has been a culture of PC gaming forever. There's a lot of other games that are cross-platform, that have Steam Workshop support, and they don't have mods in consoles. No one's ever complained about that. If you want mods, you play on PC, right? But again, I also agree that there shouldn't be a need for mods. Thing is, if a plugin has been downloaded a billion times, and then that probably means it's solving a lot of problems that the game doesn't solve by himself. Yep. So I wish they would stop seeing as these guys are here to ruin everything, and try to maybe see it from the perspective that we're just trying to bring up the tools that we feel like the game should have by itself. I don't really feel like when I see a new plugin, I'm not really thinking, oh, this is a cool new plugin, awesome. I'm more thinking like, why the fuck isn't this in the game already? You know.
As a WoW player, I agree.
Yeah, like, and you can kind of get by how they went about the pretty much copying LVY into base WoW, right? It's pretty much mandatory right now to install LVY, otherwise the game's just shit. You have a bad experience. You need to install add-ons.
Yeah.
So I think they went in a good direction, and I think that Square Enix and Yoshi P, even in his latest statement, he does mention that he wants to improve. He knows that the tools that people are using, they're using it because they seem necessary. So he wants to add them in game, and I really thank him for that.
Like chat bubbles, for example.
Yeah, like chat bubbles. Yeah. Like, can you name me an MMO that doesn't use chat bubbles? Even RuneScape has chat bubbles. Like, for me, these kinds of decisions don't really make sense. It's just a sought-out after feature to have in the game, yet they refuse to provide it. So people seem to be forced to go to other providers that are not official.
It's just what people are gonna do. I think so, but you would say you agree that there is a line where add-ons do become too strong or too outside the bounds of what a player would be able to do.
Intrusive.
Naturally. Yeah, intrusive, basically. Okay,
yeah,
well, that's good.
I do agree with that, and it's exactly the same thoughts with WoW 2. There's plugins that I simply don't really agree with existing, but it is what it is. And I kind of only feel like Square Enix should look at two solutions. One is to either endorse plugins and make them official, moderate what the same thing as Blizzard, give us an API, give us stuff to work on. If you don't want to include anything that's combat related, then don't include that in the API. Let us have something official that we can call our plugins. Or at least come ask us or try to understand why a million people downloaded a plugin.
I think what I'm hearing a lot from you is that you don't necessarily disagree with Square Enix not liking add-ons, but you just feel like you wish that they would take a more cooperative approach with the developers and with the players on it, rather than just punishing them for doing something that they then themselves admit is bad by the nature of them trying to fix it and acknowledging that.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, no one's gonna use ACT just to piss people off, right?
Yeah.
If someone uses ACTs because they need it, you can talk shit about parsers all you want. I also talk shit about parsers. I don't like them. But for example, FFLogs, it's a very valuable tool for World First Raiders, because the game doesn't provide you absolutely no information to how stuff ended up. Like, it doesn't matter if I know that I died to an ability. I don't know how I died. I don't know how much mitigation I had. I don't know if I was full HP. I don't know how much mitigation I'm gonna need. I don't know how much damage it dealt. There's no death recap somehow on an MMO. There's another one. If they simply add a death recap, then FFLog stops being a necessary tool for a high-end rating.
I've been asking about that for Path of Exile for about 10 years. I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's good to hear your perspective. It definitely is, because I do think there's a lot of people definitely who have innocuous add-ons. Like, I would argue something like chat bubbles is completely innocuous. This is not something that increases your ability to play the game. It just simply makes the game more playable. And those people are getting lumped up in people that are using things that literally call out the boss abilities in voice. I think those are two very different things. So even though Square Enix might not be able to approach these two things differently based off of just the fact that they don't have that much resources, or they're not able to for some legal reason, I think that we can both agree that those are two different things.
Yeah, and about the resources, I'm not exactly so sure about that. Obviously, it's always going to be about the big guy behind everything that decides the budget for the game. But man, we're 20 guys. We did this in our room in our spare time because we also have full-time jobs.
Yeah,
we did it because we love the game. It took us 4 months to do it for free. We didn't ask for anything. We're not doing this for the cloud. What cloud are we even getting? We're the bad guys somehow. I don't really see an excuse to not enough resources or something, besides the big boss doesn't want it.
I think it could always be, people told me that there's like a law in Japan that maybe makes it harder for them to handle it. It's hard for me to know. I have no idea what the laws in Japan are, but that's just what people have said.
I mean, I can believe that. Like you, I'm not from Japan. I'm not gonna say whatever culture or rules they have up there. But one thing is clear is that whenever we had a thank you message channel, probably 50% of them were Japanese. So I also don't really like this, like, oh, it's the Japanese people and their culture and shit. Like, that's just not false. I mean, that's just false. From the developer's perspective that gets the thank yous for developing the plugins, no, it's not the case. So I would also like for people to stop throwing shade at the Japanese people.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that just feel that way everywhere. It's nothing special, unique to any one group. I agree with that for sure. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this. I'm glad to have your perspective. So, yeah, thanks a lot for coming on, man. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, not really. I don't.
Okay, well, yeah, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it, and good luck trying to get this worked out with Square Enix. It seems like you all are certainly going to need it, yeah.
We'll see.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. I'll see you later.
All right. See you, man. Thank you.
I think that went pretty well. What do you think? What do you think? Yeah, yeah, it's exactly. That went okay. And absolutely, come to Portugal. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Great, yeah. I mean, I think he brings up some good points. I mean, absolutely. There are players that just, I think that there is a huge culture in America, and I think really in a lot of places, not just America, and he does bring up a good point, right? A lot of other games have mods, and they just want to be able to do the same thing with the other games, and of course Square Enix has every right to moderate the game the way that they want, but of course there's going to be a lot of friction, you could say, whenever you have people that are so frustrated about, so frustrated about something that they always feel like they had before, you know? I think that's definitely going to happen. So, Arthur's made a tweet about this. It's one thing for someone to break the TOS, and then others to specifically brigading to get someone banned. Both North America and Japan are actually doing it. What's sad? Dark period. So, let's look at this here. These are people clearly basically making a they're creating a template for people to report Pyromancer. And this is clearly on, guess what website this is on. This is on the infamous hacker website 4chan. And you can see this also on this is I guess the Japanese website as well, linking Pyromancer's stream as well. So, people are brigading and trying to get him banned. This is just what's going to happen, right? I mean, it's what's going to happen. Like, yes, obviously, these are not, and I want to say again, sometimes I wonder if it's salty WoW fans or something, like they're reporting ex-WoW streamers as a way of punishing them for leaving. Yes, the ex-WoW players definitely downloaded Final Fantasy, created an account, and tracked down a streamer just to report them. Yes, it's very plausible. Well, it's not that unplausible, but yes. Look, when you leave Pyromancer alone, doing some dumber shit with his last game. I mean, it's just a video game, man. It's just a video game at the end of the day. Is absolutely not what he wants or needs. Yeah, I mean, again, like that's why I'd say don't scream if you're in that mental state. Chilling Spree with the 5 gifted community subs. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. If you don't break the TOS, there's nothing to fear. Every TOS is written to be vague in a way that's impossible not to break it. Yeah, I think this is a disingenuous thing to say. It's very obvious, like, that there are different levels of breaking the TOS. Yeah, it's very obvious that there's different levels of it, and it's just like, oh, and this person is, they're technically right. That every TOS does have, like, catch-all phrases that they can ban you for whatever they want. Yeah, sure. But, like, I think that this is... It's deliberately disingenuous to imply that having add-ons is in that category. Let's see here. I'll say it before and I'll say it again. The community I love is riddled with gatekeepers who will turn on you the moment the opportunity arises. It's not the majority, of course, but the best community in gaming has a secret, dark underbelly that does not like outsiders. Bro, what is this? The fucking... Like, I feel like that's a quote from, like, a fucking... Like the beginning of Assassin's Creed. God damn. Like, what the fuck? Let's be real. All right, let's come back to reality here. This not the like, you think the Final Fantasy community is on like, no. There are people that are assholes in every community. There are people that are huge racists that play Final Fantasy XIV. And you know why they're not banned? It's because they don't talk about it. It doesn't mean they're not there. They just don't talk about it. They haven't gotten reported. Oh, me? Yeah, shut up. Listen, all I'm saying is plenty of people. Yeah, absolutely. He was banned. Was Pyro banned? Let me see. Final Fantasy is one of the most toxic communities, and it's insane. This is really getting out of hand. What's happening with supposedly all this welcoming community? I find this to be so disingenuous and so obnoxious. I hate this. Because it's not the Final Fantasy community. This is the internet. It's like, for example, if you have, let's say you have no emotes banned on your channel, and you have a random, like a black person come on stream, and this is any stream with over 40,000 viewers. What is going to be in the chat? Try hard. You know it. I know it. Everybody fucking knows it. That's what people do. They do that, and this is not something that is endemic of the streamer. This is not something that is, the streamer did not cause this to happen. Is that bad? I find it to be tacky, okay? I don't want to argue whether it's bad or not, but we can both agree that it's kind of tacky. So, whenever this kind of stuff happens, people always go and they blame the individual that it happens in. They blame something like the Final Fantasy community. But what they don't understand is that the Final Fantasy community exists inside of a larger community of internet users. And internet users exhibit this behavior, and the Final Fantasy community has internet users inside of it. So it's not a direct fault of the Final Fantasy community that a small amount of them are hostile or aggressive. It's not. It's not really harmless, though. I don't want to talk about what this is not really I don't want to get into that. But like, you see kind of where I'm saying here is that you look at any big stream, and like every big streamer almost has, like, whether it's fucking, like, people say Mizkif's community can be toxic. People say XQC's community is toxic. People say, like, any of the other streamers, like Aiden Ross's community is toxic. Anybody who gets a lot of viewers, they say their community is toxic. Why is that? It's because once you get to a certain amount of people, 1% of bad boys becomes a big number. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you have 50,000 people watching and 1% of them are assholes, that's a lot of people. Yeah, that's a lot of fucking people. And so, yeah, that's like 500 fucking people. Doesn't the same logic apply to WoW? Yes, it does. And this is what I said before about it being a consistent, repeated behavior. This is not something that's happening in Final Fantasy. This is something that's happening on another platform, number one. Number two, this is not something that is repeated. We've not really had this happen before. So that's why I'm saying it's not because of the Final Fantasy community. You see kind of where I'm coming from here? Wrong, it's because you and other big streamers don't take enough action into removing these people from your community? Well, I'm actually curious, like, what do you think that we should do? 44 Marca. I'm actually curious, like, what do you think that we should do that we don't do? Yeah, what do you think that we should do? Because, like, if you have insight that, like, maybe we don't, yeah, I'm actually curious. Yeah, go ahead. Give me one example of something that we could do. More moderation, not enabling racist people. When did I enable a racist person? When did I enable a racist person? Right now with these takes? So which part of my take enables racists? Saying there's nothing you can do to prevent this? So then what do you do? So wait a minute. So your logic is that saying there's nothing you can do to prevent this is enabling them. But by enabling them, you're saying there's nothing to do to prevent this. This is circular logic. Yeah, you don't even know what you're talking about. You understand? Like, you actually, and this is the thing, is like, if you actually had a solution to this, you would have immediately stated it. You would have immediately said, you should do this, you should not do that. But you didn't do that because you don't know what you're talking about. I find it to be very insulting to be told that I am enabling racism. I am not doing enough in my community. We've banned multiple emotes. We have to put things in sub mode constantly. Like, we really work overtime to make sure that this community isn't toxic. We really do. We work really hard to do this. And I think a lot of streamers do the same thing. Like, for example, I'll give you, like, one example. Is, like, the reason why the booba emote is banned is because what ends up happening is, like, every single time a girl comes on stream, people spam the booba emote, right? And we had to ban it. We ban it sometimes whenever we have like different girls on stream because it makes them feel uncomfortable. And I don't even really have to have them tell me that. I just don't want to enable a culture of people where they think that is something that's good to do. Does that make sense? It's funny? Yeah, it is funny, but for some people it's not. And so I don't let them do that. I think it would make people uncomfortable. Fufi, thanks to the 5 gifted subs. I appreciate that. Did you ask them? I don't think that you really need to in a lot of cases. And I think also, even if that individual person is okay with people typing the emote, right? Like, I think Fandy's generally okay with people typing the boob emote, right? Sure. But there are a lot of other girls that aren't. And so I try to not create a culture around that, because if you do that, you end up making it to where people approach every single person in this perspective. Do you see kind of what I'm saying here? Hamzad, thanks for the 5 gifted subs. I appreciate that. Can I ban this? Ban whoever you want, Jibo. I don't care. But anyway, like, what I'm saying is that this is a problem. You know, it's a big problem. And I do a lot to try to remove toxicity from my community. And of course it's never going to go away because they're just here endemically. They're here naturally on the internet. What I don't understand is how Square Enix thinks this is okay. I can 100% say this isn't different from harassment because, as you said, one thing is breaking the TOS and another one is ganging up on these guys to get people banned. There's nothing... Yeah, no, I disagree with that. Because he wouldn't get suspended if he wasn't breaking the rules. It's not like 50 people report him, and Square Enix says, oh, well, you know what? That's enough reports. He's getting banned. Langomusky, thank you very much for the 25 gifted subs. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I completely disagree with this, because this person would have never gotten suspended if they weren't breaking the rules. This isn't a case of someone being unfairly suspended. This is a case of somebody being breaking the rules in a... realistically, like, not a big way, but, you know, and then them getting suspended for it. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it goes, man. WoW does that, KEKW. After somebody reports, you get automatically banned. Exactly, and that's why it's... if we were talking about WoW, she'd have a point. Absolutely. But we're not. Someone who broke the rules can still be harassment. Third option is ban power for add-ons and the people who are mass reporting for harassment. But how do you know they're mass reporting for harassment? So, like, is anybody who's reporting for harassment? Maybe somebody doesn't like Pyro using add-ons, period, right? How do you know they're harassing him? How do you know they don't just have a genuine feeling about it? It's impossible to do that. I know that sounds like a good idea, but it's really not. Give me 1 second here. Some people report out of spite, by the way. I do it all the time. Whenever somebody makes me mad, I keep making them mad until they use profanity, and then I report their account for language. That's right. That's right. It's like you're baiting a pig into like a pit of spikes, right? So you can cook it. Yeah, I do it all the time. Because somebody fucks with me, and so I fuck them back. That's right. That's exactly right. I love it.